And this morning is about the possible miracle of all of you. Are you all looking at me for a minute? Actually, Mr. James, I'm going to ask you to move around in and amongst with the microphone. All right, this is what I'm going to ask everybody here this morning. Who can help me talk about the Easter story? Who can help me? Can you?
I don't know about the Easter story.
You know what to? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Can you, Mr. James? Can you go over there and do you know the Easter story? No. All right. You could just say hi into the microphone if you want. Hi. All right. You don't have to do that either. Okay. Who else can tell me?
I'm going to get my book.
You're going to go get your book? All right. All right. You got it. He's got his book. That's perfect. All right. So Josiah, you help us too.
The Easter story is about the day that Jesus died on the cross.
Okay.
That's all I know.
Okay, that's perfect. Give him a hand. That's beautiful. This is what I wanted. I wanted one little part. Okay, what's the oh, go ahead. You tell me the part of it that you want to tell me about. You don't have to read the whole thing. Just read like a page or something. I love that you came prepared, Benjamin. Okay, go ahead. Which part?
The crowds cheered as Jesus rode into the city of Jerusalem.
Nice. Beautiful. All right, so Jesus rode into Jerusalem, and then he died on the cross. Okay, who else has something? Go ahead. Go with Mr. James.
He died, then he rose again.
Wait, hold on. I didn't hear you. All right. Go ahead, James. No, what she said, you say it.
She said he died and then he rose again.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Does anybody else have anything they want to add? Okay. Oh, I see you, William. Okay. Okay, you want to? Okay, go ahead.
So they buried him in a cave.
Okay.
And they blocked it with a big rock.
Yes, they blocked it with a big rock. They buried him in a cave and blocked him with a big rock.
Jesus went to the temple and saw the people there were selling animals and exchanging money.
Nice. Very good. So he rode into Jerusalem. He went into the temple. He saw people exchanging money, and he didn't like it very much. Does anybody know what he did? Anybody? Where? Okay.
He destroyed it.
He did. He overthrew the tables. That's beautiful. Yes, you're exactly right. Yes, and the money fell off the table. And then he died on the cross. He was crucified. And he went into a cave, right? Anybody remember how many days? 3. You are all brilliant. 3. And then he was raised from the dead. And William, what do you want to add?
The worst part about it is that the people who were cheering for him when he went into Jerusalem were now the people who were saying, "Crucify him."
Come on, William. That man's a preacher. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
We have a very proud dad.
Yeah,
back
oh
here.
yeah. Listen, I just have to, While he was talking, anybody notice he was doing this? He was moving his head back and forth, getting ready to preach, let me tell you. Got a preacher in our midst. Anybody else want to add anything? You're doing a beautiful job of helping me with the Easter story. Any final words? All right. Oh, okay. One more. Nope, I'm looking at you. I know you look behind you, but I was looking at you.
From Easter, I'm going, Jesus, they got crashed.
Say that again.
From Easter, they got.
It sounds like they got crashed.
Easter, they got crashed.
Crashed.
Crashed? Is that what you said? From Easter, they got crashed. All right. Thank you for that final word. It's beautiful. All right. So as you guys are going back to your seats, we're going to give you these little Easter bracelets that say loving God and loving others fearlessly. And we're going to give you a pencil, and we're going to give you that. So Mr. James and Mr. Tony. The only time I call them Mr. is right now. And when everybody leaves today, we also got bands that say loving God and loving others fearlessly for everybody. So as you leave, make sure you see the ushers. Our little Easter. No, you guys can go back to your seats too. Otherwise, I'll trip on you. I know it. Give them a hand one more time. You guys did great. You got a pencil? You get a pencil and a little thingamabob. Okay, you'll get, yep, that's perfect. Did you get a pencil? Mr. Tony, they didn't get pencils right here. Here's 2 crafts here. Here's a craft. William didn't. Yep. Okay, you got one?
How long are we staying in here?
You're not. You're going back to your seat. I don't know. Everybody get one? Beautiful. All right. Y'all did a great job. Thank you, children. Thank you. So, we all heard what Easter was about. It's about the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Christ. And you know, when I think about this moment and what this brought for each one of us, it's not just about the salvific promises of God. That's just a big word for salvation. But it's not just about that, which is totally key to our life, but it is also about the imagery. It's about the model of the cross. It's about finding within the death, the burial, and the resurrection of Christ a pattern for our own lives. A.J. Swoboda says this: life is found in all 3 days, meaning our lives are found in all 3 days. Pain and death on Friday, doubt on Saturday, and resurrection on Sunday. To follow Jesus as we're created to is to simultaneously enter the whole weekend. We almost never embrace the totality of the weekend. See, what we like is the resurrection. What we like is to concentrate on that. But the truth is, we all face deaths in our lives on any given day. And then we face the darkness of the tomb when we can't see or find God in those moments. Until the moment of resurrection comes and we find life. This happens over and over again on a daily basis in our lives, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis, on a lifelong basis. I really believe that when Jesus said, take up your cross and follow me, what we always interpret that is take up your cross like, darn, 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 darn. That's what we imagine is that we're doing. What I believe that he's really saying is take up the lifelong process of the death and the burial and the resurrection of my life. That as you're taking up your cross, what you are remembering is no matter how dark it gets, he is no longer on that cross because he is risen. So when we face those moments in our life, our minds go to, no, there is a victory, even if I can't see it. The imagery of the cross is seen all throughout nature and all throughout the world. Think about when a volcano or a tsunami or a forest fire comes in. Give it a few weeks, give it a few years, and before you know it, there's a sprout of new life that comes forth. Nature cries out that there is a resurrection after there's a death. Our seasons cry out that there was a resurrection. How many look at winter and go, am I ever going to see a green thing on that tree ever again? Thank you. You all know. Exactly. In those moments, you're like, I can't even remember summer at this moment, but it comes back. I think even the way a seed goes into the ground, John 12, unless a seed go into the ground and die, it remains a single seed. But when it dies, it comes back up and produces a harvest. Even a seed has to go down into the darkness of nothingness. And then when that seed sprouts, that shell is broken, and then the new life comes. We don't like that part. We just like the resurrection part. We just want to stare at that. Richard Rohr says this, and take this, if I say anything today, take this home. Everything will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, then it is not yet the end. Come on. That'll preach, man. Oh, give me life. And you know what? I'm not talking about, like, I've said this a few times to people because it so struck me. And people went, yes, in the end times, at the end, it'll all end up okay. And I go, no, that's the problem. Is we look at it and go, yep, in the resurrection, it'll end up. No, it'll end up okay here. That even when, no matter how dark or drab or difficult things are, God says life will come out of what you thought was once dead. Life will come forward. It has taken me years to get to this point, that when I am in the tomb and when I can't see, and let me tell you this, last year and a half, I have spent time in the tomb where I've gone, God, I can't see you right here. I can't find you. And I've heard him whisper and just go, and resurrection is right around the corner. Victory will come. Hang on. Hang on in this moment. Because it's oftentimes in the tomb that the greatest work is being done. It's oftentimes when we can't see that God is doing the deepest work within us. But we are so trained to want only good things to happen in our life that when the death comes, and these deaths can come from the loss of a job, the failing of a test, an argument with a friend. I'm not talking about these major death points in our lives, by the way. I'm talking about those things when we wake up and we're so depressed we can't even get our foot outside the bed that day. I'm talking about those moments when we have a break in relationship. I'm talking about those moments when our hopes and our dreams feel like they're totally crashed and gone and burned. I'm talking about when we get a car accident, or when we have a betrayal by a friend, or when we lose money, or when there are changes within our health. I'm talking about deaths that we would label little, all the way to deaths that we would label major. Because to God, all those deaths, he'll bring back to life again. To God, somehow in his economy, they don't matter. He doesn't care if they're big or little. We assess how big or little they are. He doesn't care. Even through the physical death of somebody that we dearly loved, all the way until our own death, which we will all face, God says no matter what happens, the pattern has been set. He came, he died. Hi there. He was in the tomb, and he was resurrected. That is the pattern for all of our lives. If we learn in these moments that every death has its period in the tomb, and every tomb must come to an end with life, we will go through life with a much greater hope in our souls. That when we are in those dark places, we will rest, because we know that life is fluid. We know that we will continue to move. We know that God is about life, and that life begets life. And because the Spirit of God dwells within us, he pushes back the darkness, which he did on the cross, and he brings forth life, no matter what we have going on within our lives. If we can grab a hold of this day, I probably have never had an Easter experience like I have this year, when I have just sat in the truth of the death and the burial and the resurrection of moments in our life. Because as I sat in the darkness and could not find God, I knew that he was there, and I knew that he was going to resurrect whatever I thought was dead within my life. And so often in my journals this year, I have written, I see you, God. In those moments of darkness when I think it's all hopeless, and I go, show me your face. And then he'll do one little itsy-bitsy thing, and I go, I see you, God. I see you're working. I see you're here. Help me to keep my eyes on the victory. But see, what happens is we get caught in our Fridays. We get caught where we find our identity, or we settle down in the defeat, or in the death, or in the negativity, or in the loss, and we get our eyes fixed on those moments. Or we get caught in our Saturdays when the doubt permeates everything within our soul, when the darkness has become a destination, when victimization has been something that we have put on, when our pit becomes our home instead of a place that we're passing through. Others get caught in the Sundays of positivity, where, man, you can't have a negative confession come out of your mouth. Or every negative emotion that you feel, you can't tell anybody that you're feeling that way. God forbid that you give a negative confession or say something wrong. But God says the pattern has been set. Every end that looks like an end is a beginning in God's kingdom. Every tomb that looks like it's a destination is a conduit on the way to the beginning that God has for us. God has beginnings no matter where we are in our life. This day, Easter, is about the celebration that God came and set a pattern. And this pattern has been here since the beginning of time. But when I look at the cross is a place of unfairness. The cross is a place of being crucified unfairly. Hear me. Most of the things that happen to us in our lives are not our fault. Most of the things that happen to us in our lives are extremely unfair. Most of the things that we look at that are deaths in our lives are painful things that we hate and that were done to us. And I think of Jesus in those words on the cross, Father, why have you forsaken me? Most of our cross are places where we feel forsaken and where we're looking and going, God, where are you? Or when he says from the cross, forgive them, they know not what they do. That place where you have to let go and you have to trust God. And you have to say, I don't believe these people or this situation was done on purpose. They don't know or see what they're doing. Or when he's going, I thirst. That feeling of being bereft. That feeling of being abandoned, that feeling of being lost with a hole inside of us. And Jesus is crying out on behalf of all of us. He's so identifying with us in that moment that when he's going, I thirst, it's not just about him thirsting. It's about all of our thirst. It's about all of our moments when we're going, I'm so thirsty. I need something in this moment of hollowness. Or when we look and we go, it's finished. Sometimes we go, I'm done. I can't do it anymore. And it's him going, when you come to the end, find me. When you come to the end of yourself. Or Father, into your hands I commit my spirit, where we finally can entrust ourselves to God and say, Lord, not my will, but yours. I entrust my whole self to you and to what you're saying. This prototype, this imagery of the cross tells us it's okay to feel. tells us it's okay to cry out, "Why have you forsaken me?" You know, we always picture Jesus going, "Why have you forsaken me?" I always picture him going, "Why have you forsaken me? Why?" And you know what? In that moment, when he was crying out and saying, "Why have you forsaken me?" he is quoting Psalm 22. And in the depths of my soul, I believe that as he was quoting that verse, he was also knowing what it said at the end. And that is, we will worship you, God. We will worship you in a place of victory. It is in that moment, even though he's crying out, "Why have you forsaken me?" he knew the resurrection was around the corner. And it says, for the joy set before him, he endured the cross. I believe that joy was what we are with him in the celebration of the unity that humanity has with him. But he knew at the end of that cross, there was a resurrection. It is okay. It is okay to feel dead in moments. And it is okay to go, "Why have you forsaken me?" And it is okay to hold on in those moments and look, because there is a resurrection that is coming. I don't know why I always point that way for the resurrection, but I do. And I think about the tomb, the in-between. This is the place of our greatest challenge. You know, deaths sneak up on us and happen to us. Deaths are all of a sudden there, and we kind of are able to gut it through. But then we think it's going to be over quickly, and then we land in the tomb. Tombs can last for a day. Tombs can last for years. Being in that place of the in-between, between the promise of who God is and the answer. The place of the pit that we cannot see. When I think of the disciples, they had no idea that this is what was going to happen. In the disciples' mind, Jesus was going to ride into Rome and he was going to take over the government and he was going to be victorious. It was not what they expected. Have you ever walked through your life and not got what you expected? Have you ever been hoping and praying and believing and you didn't get your answer? That's what happened to the disciples. They were expecting Jesus to come in as a victorious king, and instead they're watching their hopes, their dreams, their wishes, and everything they have get crucified on that cross that day. And you know what they did? They ran. And then you know what they did? They ran into a little room and they locked themselves down. Have you ever locked yourself down in a room because you're afraid? Because you don't want to open that door, and because your hopes and your dreams are dashed. That's the same thing that happened to them. How many times in the Gospels does it say they didn't fully understand what was happening until after? How many times in our lives we have no idea what's happening until we get on the side of the resurrection, and when we look back, we go, "Wow, that was the worst thing in my life, but I would never want to not go through that again because that changed me the most." How many of us find a different kind of life? It may not look like what we wanted, but it will be the life that he wants for us, that we can trust for him. Bob Goff says this. Here's the other quote. Heaven fell, his friends scattered, hope seemed lost. But heaven just started counting to 3. Come on. Come on. Heaven fell, his friends scattered, hope seemed lost. But heaven just started counting to 3. When we are in the pit, if we could but bring to our memory, heaven is counting to my victory. Because life begets life. Because Christ in us permeates our body, presses back the darkness, and brings life out of the stuff that we thought was dead. I'm going to close with this. Did I do 20 minutes? I'm going to close with this. Who said sort of? Thank you, Joni. This is what I want to say. Hear me this morning, wherever you're at this morning. Everything will be all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it is not yet the end. Pull that into yourself this morning, because he is faithful. He is the one that gave us the prototype from the deaths in our life to the conduit of the tomb to the place of victory. You will find life again, no matter where we are. We will find life again. And when we're in that pit, keep this in your mind. Heaven is just making a count to your victory and to our victory. Amen? Amen. He is still in that business. Psalm 22. in the Passion Translation. He says, God, my God, why would you abandon me now, and why do you remain distant? And then he goes walking and he says, don't leave me now. Stay close to me, for trouble is all around me. There's no one else to help me. And then, and I believe this was in his mind when he was on that cross, because he knew this psalm. Verse 24. He has not despised my cries of deep despair. He is my first responder to my suffering. He didn't look the other way when I was in pain. He was there all the time listening to the song of the afflicted. And then verse 26, bring Yahweh praise and you will find him. Your hearts will overflow with life forever. I believe that Jesus was on that cross and he knew this psalm. And he knew that when he was saying, God, why have you forsaken me? He was always also proclaiming the victory. So this is what I want to do this morning, and this is a little different for Easter, but if you're a part of our community, you know that we do this. I want to close with a declaration together as a community. I don't know if you're in a place of death in your life right now, things that have been lost, things that you thought shouldn't be this way are. And you know what? You can be in all three places in different areas of your life, let me tell you. Or maybe you're in a place of the tomb and you feel like you need breath in the darkness that you feel. And again, it can be in different areas of your life. I want to make the declaration today together that we know that resurrection is right around the corner and heaven is counting. And if we don't see the answer yet, it is not over yet. So I'm going to invite as many as can fit up here to come up here. And I want to sing together as a community. And I want to make the declaration of who he is, no matter where we are in our journey. So come on up and join me and let's sing.
Stop me, 'cause you hold my hand. Now I'm walking in your victory, 'cause your power is within me. No giant can defeat me, 'cause you hold my hand. No fire, and no fire can burn me, and no battle can turn me. No mountain can stop me, 'cause you hold my hand. Now I'm walking in your victory, and your power is within me, and no giants can defeat me, 'cause you hold my hand. Your power is within me, Lord, and no giant can defeat me, 'cause you hold my hand. Oh, no fire can burn me, and no battle can turn me, and no mountain can stop me, 'cause you hold my hand. Now I'm walking your power is within me, Lord, and no giants can defeat me, 'cause you hold my hand. Oh, you're always there. You're always there. Ooh, you're always there, 'cause you hold my hand. sing it out. Battle, woo, can turn me, and no mountain can stop me, 'cause you hold my, oh, come on, let's do it. And I'm walking in your victory, your power is within me, and no mountain can defeat me, 'cause you hold my hand. No fire can burn me, and no battle can turn me, and no mountain can stop me, 'cause you hold my hand. Now I'm walking in your victory, and your power, oh, is in me. No giants, Lord, 'cause you hold my hand. No fire can burn me, no battle can turn me, no mountain can stop me, 'cause you hold my hand. Now I'm walking in your victory, and your power is within me, and no giant can defeat me, 'cause you hold my hand. One more time, no fire. No fire can burn me, and no battle can turn me, and no mountain can stop me, 'cause you hold my hand. Now I'm walking in your victory, and your power is within me, and no giant can defeat me, 'cause you hold my hand. 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 Jesus, you hold my hand. 'Cause 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 you hold my hand. Woo! Thank you, Lord.
Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. You know, in Israelite history, they would say to each other, shalom. And what that meant was wholeness and peace and life be in balance for you and victory and God's presence in your life. That's what shalom meant. And so when Paul says to greet one another and say, peace be to you, what he was saying was shalom. And he was saying, may God's balance and victory and life and everything that he has be yours. So what I encourage after I dismiss is to give one another a hug and say, peace be upon you. And what we're saying to each other is we are blessing one another with his peace. And we are blessing one another within that no matter what is going on in your life, life presses forth into life and victory can be found. It may not look like what you thought, but it will look like what he wanted. So I speak to each one today, happy Easter and peace be upon you in Jesus' name.